Hey friends, you've been with us this fall, many of you, as we've journeyed through what we've called Emotional Healthy Faith, using Pete's book. It's been excellent. And as we kind of move into the final reaches of this series, one of the things we're going to be looking at is, well, how do you maintain emotional healthy faith for the duration, for the long term? And at the end of Pete's book, there's this concept called rule of life, developing a rule of life. You can kind of think of it, and I'll let Keith kind of explain more here in a minute, but almost as certain practices or disciplines to maintain optimal emotional, spiritual vitality and health. Now, for some of us, that rule of life concept might be like, what in the world is that? Is that a Catholic thing? For some people. But one of the things, we'll touch on it on Sunday, but then we wanted to offer, because we think this is such a valuable opportunity, some extended time with my friend and fellow covenant pastor, Keith Meyer, here to kind of engage a little bit deeper on how do you actually develop one of those, kind of almost a workshop. So Keith, what would you say kind of is the value of a rule of life? What is it? What do we hope to maybe look into on the night you lead us here in a few weeks?
Right. Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and hello, everybody. Look forward to being with you then and talking about a rule life. First of all, rule life, sounds kind of rulish, kind of like, what are you going to lay on me? And basically, the word for rule simply means kind of a rail or a fence post. And a lot of people like to think of a rule life as a trellis. So a structure that is not the kind of, a rule life is not the life, but it's kind of a trellis, or if you will, even a scaffolding that you intentionally set up to create a kind of life. And sometimes people mistake the rule of life with the life, and that's when you get a lot of legalism or goofy stuff that happens. But Jesus had a rule of life, and it says in the scriptures, as was his custom, that he went to the Sabbath, but he also had rule of life in terms of his work life. And at one point in time in book of Mark chapter 2, Jesus is up early in the morning, which was also part of his custom, and to go in a lonely place and pray. And the disciples were told, hunted for him, and the people were seeking to keep him there at the town that he was at in Capernaum. And Jesus turned to his disciples and said, no, we're moving on. And so he had actually rails for his own ministry life that kept him in the Father's will. So one of the things that I look at, Jeff, in terms of rule of life is I like to think of it, and there's lots of different ways that we can think about this, but each one of us right now has a kind of life due to how you have relationships or not, and the quality of those, the habits and practices that you have in your life, good or bad. Another would be the life, your response to life circumstances, and so
we have a rule whether we're aware of it or not.
Yes, and so those things make up for us kind of life that we have, and so we already have a rule life. And what we'll talk about is maybe recognizing what that is, and then how do we adapt that, and what do we add, what do we take away, to be able to achieve the kind of life that we want.
Yeah, well, we're really looking forward to having you here in a few weeks. Join us. We're going to have a limited number of seats, probably I think 10 or 12 at the Quie, someone in our house near church. You can RSVP there, but we're also going to live stream this to our Friends of Facebook group. So you'll need a little bit of information ahead of time. We'll also send you some kind of paperwork, almost, that sounds bad, documentation to work through, to kind of, sometimes when you put pen to paper, there's a way God just kind of works when you write something out, that if it just stays in your head, it's maybe not quite the same. And so just really want us to take this opportunity to lean into this opportunity. I think bringing intentionality to our lives. Life happens no matter what. right? But bringing intentionality to it and saying, well, what am I going to do with this one crazy life I have to live is where we want to go. And how do we think about a rule of life to maintain emotional, spiritual faith through days and weeks and years. And so we're looking forward to it. Keith, thank you so much for doing this.
You bet.
And we'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay.